I want to preface this episode by saying I have nothing against sports at all. I have nothing against buying season tickets or being a basketball fan or baseball fan or soccer fan or whatever. I am simply making this video to bring to attention some of the less obvious, harmful effects of excessive sports watching that many people, especially myself, may not notice in themselves initially. This video may not be for everyone, but for those who resonate with what I'm talking about, I encourage you to do some introspection upon watching this. I'll start with a personal story of mine. I used to be a massive Milwaukee Bucks fan. My favorite player was, and mostly still is, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I watched almost every game in the season. I bought several shirts, jerseys, and hats from the Bucks store, and my mood would be regularly affected by the outcome of recent Bucks games. I also, as many Milwaukee fans did, disliked Pacers fans and Celtics fans. After the big win in 2021, the performance of the Milwaukee Bucks progressively got worse and worse each year. In 2022, they lost in the conference finals. Then they were first-round exits every year after that, with the team's regular season record getting worse and worse each year. Every year during the playoffs, I'd anxiously watch the Bucks games and be extremely disappointed by their performance. It would genuinely ruin my mood for the next few days. On top of this, I felt that the management of the Bucks team was making, in my opinion, many poor choices driven by a desire to win now and not later, and this unfortunately ended up trading away many players that held a special place in the heart of Milwaukee fans. After many years of this, and after a particularly disastrous Bucks season this past year, I gave up on this team that I once loved. The same went for the soccer club I used to watch, Tottenham. The last season almost ended in a relegation, and we lost so many games that I stopped bothering to even watch them. And it was during this last year of not watching sports anymore that I realized the harmful effects that my sports watching habits had brought me. Now, that's the end of the story, and there's a lot to unpack here. I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to argue that any of these things I described should not be a normal part of sports. In fact, part of my argument is that because these are normal parts of sports, people should not get so emotionally invested in them like I did. Again, I'm looking at this through the lens of the act of watching and consuming sports as entertainment, and I'm not trying to make an analysis or criticism of the sports industry or anything. You'll find that all of the issues I talk about can be fixed without actually doing anything to the current sports industry, despite all of the problems people say it has. So the first problem I will discuss is watching every game of the season. I noticed in my 1 year break how much time I saved by not watching every game of the NBA season. Each game was about 2 hours long, and this is mostly the same for other sports. And I would turn these games on while studying or doing work, and the game would end up distracting me for 2 hours because I was so emotionally invested in the game and the outcome. Rather than it serving as a break to check from time to time, it replaced my studying entirely. Also, much of this time spent watching could have been avoided because the first 3 quarters of a basketball game are almost entirely meaningless towards the outcome of the game, and only the 20 to 30 minute final quarter would have been useful for me to watch, and I could have watched just that and got what I needed from the game and been done. And since there were games every few days, and watching these games frequently brought me anxiety and stress, I was getting stressed often, and it was affecting me negatively. Watching sports in person largely fixes this. Sports in person usually mean a simultaneous hanging out with friends or family. It means you're making plans to have an outing to go to a game, and this is a much more fulfilling experience than turning on a laptop while you're supposed to be studying to watch the game. Watching the game in your own local city also means you support the local team and build somewhat of a community around the team, which is much healthier than arguing with other sports fans online in the stream chats. Watching sports in person is also more expensive, yet still affordable for most, meaning you don't go as often, and as a result, the games become more memorable and meaningful as opposed to something you absolutely must see the outcome of all the time. So, watching every game of the season and getting too invested in it without friends or family to watch with makes it a much worse experience. And for me, it did not make me feel good, providing me more reason to stop doing it. And this brings up a similar concept that I realized. Did watching sports ever bring me joy? Sure, sometimes. But did watching sports ever make me irritated or upset? Yes, it did actually, and more often than not. Now, what were those instances when watching sports brought me genuine joy? The answer is there were two instances where this could happen. The first is if my team had a genuinely good game that was close, but not too close where it made me anxious, and then had a solid win in the end. This is, as many of you know, extremely rare. And the other instance of sports bringing me joy is when I attend sports games live with friends and family. And as I said earlier, this is the more fulfilling option. The second major issue I had with sports watching was the rivalries. Pacers fans became more than just other people supporting another team. They were automatically enemies in my eyes, which is a very unhealthy mindset to have. Obviously, they are just fellow human beings who happen to like another team. I wouldn't want them thinking I'm bad for supporting the Bucks, yet I was a hypocrite and did so to them. The same happened with Celtics fans, and the same also happens with many sports fans across the world. It's one thing for Knicks fans to have some banter with Spurs fans, for example, but it's another thing to literally assault the Spurs fans, steal their merch, and harass them as they go home. Sports were originally intended to be communal events to bring people together and have a nice outing. They were not meant to be like they are now, with massive rivalries and fans having genuine hatred for others. It is just sports. It is never that deep. Of course, this is just part of how the industry is, and these rivalries certainly bring a lot of attention to the league, which they like. But to avoid this, I think it's healthiest that people stop trying to ruthlessly attack other fans for simply liking another team. I know how it feels to dislike another team and for that team to feel like they're genuinely trying to antagonize my team. I know it's annoying, but it only does harm to care about such rivalries. If people stopped treating sports like war and treated it more like a hobby, then I think sports rivals would get along much better and the whole experience would be better for everyone. The last major issue I had was with the way the league and teams are run, at least in basketball, but I know these are common themes that people have issues with in other sports. It's important to simply accept that no good team will last forever, nor does any team deserve to win. Teams don't deserve to win or lose, they just win or lose. And yes, there are bad calls and bad plays and bad everythings. This is part of the game. Refs are part of the game. Bad coaches are part of the game. Bad managers are part of the game. This is how the game is, and if it's not for you, it's best to not let the anger boil in you, but to simply walk away, as I once did. This mindset that any team deserves to win or lose is not inherently right or wrong, but I found that this mindset, in myself at least, only leads to disappointment and frustration. Instead of understanding that my team lost and they did what they could, I would get annoyed that the other team won. I would ruminate over failed plays or failed shots, and this would just further irritate me. I would think, oh, if that guy made this shot, we would have won. Why couldn't he just make it? The answer is that he's human and only one team ultimately wins. The odds are slim that it's going to be your team that wins everything. So why, then, bet your entire mood on whether they win or not? Why not let the experience of attending a game or watching it with friends and some food or drinks make you happy, rather than the game itself? So to summarize, this is not a deep dive criticism of the sports industry, nor is it a bashing of sports watching entirely. I still enjoy going to sports games with friends and recently watching World Cup games with my friends, even if we can't afford to attend them live. My point is to consider how sports watching is affecting your mood, your well-being, and your life in general. Just like any other hobby, it should feel like a hobby, not like a life or death situation, and not like a decisive factor for your well-being that day. As always, stay mindful.